the sentence of essential hypertension, and the promise of the missing link. Hello, health champions. Today, we're going to talk about a silent enemy that haunts millions of people. A number on a screen that has the power to generate fear, anxiety, and a lifetime of drug addiction. High blood pressure. Maybe you've already been diagnosed. You sit in the office, and after a quick measurement, the doctor says the words, "You have essential hypertension." You walk away with a recipe, advice to cut back on salt, and most importantly, a sense of helplessness. But I want you to pay close attention to the second word he used, essential. In medical terms, essential hypertension is a fancy name for hypertension of unknown cause. It's the equivalent of a mechanic looking at your car's engine, hearing a strange noise, and saying, "Your car has an essential noise." It is an admission that the system does not know the true source of your problem, and because they don't know the cause, the only tool they have left is to treat the symptom, which is high blood pressure. They give you medications that act as a stopgap, like putting a bucket under a leak in the ceiling, instead of fixing the roof. The journey of the person with high blood pressure becomes one of resignation. You learn to live with the side effects of the medications, the dizziness, the tiredness. You measure your blood pressure with constant apprehension, as if you're checking a report card that you know you'll never get top marks. You cut the salt out of your food until it loses its flavor. You avoid barbecuing with friends. You live in a state of constant vigilance. But the fundamental problem persists, silent, beneath the surface, artificially controlled by medicine. The question that is never asked, the investigation that is never started is, why? Why are your arteries becoming stiffer? Why is your body retaining more fluid than it should? Why is your nervous system in a constant state of alert? The conventional model rarely has the time or interest to explore these questions in depth. He is content to classify 95% of all cases of high blood pressure as essential, closing the door on further investigation. But we, health champions, do not accept vague answers. We do not accept a diagnosis that is, in fact, a confession of ignorance. We are detectives of our own biology. We believe that the body does not fail by chance, that disease is not a random event, but rather the logical result of a fundamental imbalance. And that's why we're here today. Because there is a cause. There is a missing link in the history of high blood pressure. A silent metabolic trigger that underlies the vast majority of these essential cases. And the reason it's silent is because your doctor, in a routine exam, just doesn't measure it. It is not part of the standard protocol. It is a piece of the puzzle that is completely absent from the research table of conventional medicine. And as long as that piece is missing, the full picture of your cardiovascular health can never be assembled. This video is the promise that I will deliver this piece to you. Let's do the investigation together that should have been done in the office. Let's explore the real mechanisms that control your blood pressure, the role of the kidneys, the flexibility of your blood vessels, and the influence of your nervous system. And so, we're going to connect all of these dots to this one silent trigger, showing you how it hijacks each of these systems, forcing your body to maintain dangerously elevated pressure. By the end of this journey, the word essential will lose all its power over you. It will be replaced by clarity. Fear will be replaced by power. And passive disease management will be replaced by an active strategy for health restoration. The truth is that your body is not your enemy. Your high blood pressure is not a sentence. It's a message that something fundamental in your metabolism is wrong. And today, we are going to learn how to decode this message. Get ready to look behind the curtain and find out what's really driving your blood pressure. The journey to true cardiovascular freedom starts now. Unmasking the straw villain. The truth about sodium. Before we can find the real culprit behind high blood pressure, we must first absolve the most famous scapegoat in the history of cardiology, sodium. For as long as we can remember, we have heard the mantra, salt is bad for blood pressure. The logic seems simple. Salt contains sodium. Sodium makes the body retain water. More water in the circulatory system increases blood volume and therefore increases pressure, like overfilling a balloon with water. This theory, known as the sodium volume model, dominated medical thinking for decades and led to a war on the salt shaker. Foods were reformulated to be light or low sodium, and patients with hypertension were told to adopt bland diets as one of the first lines of defense. And today, I want you to understand why, for the vast majority of people, this war is not only ineffective, but also dangerously misguided. Sodium is not the villain of the story. At best, he is a coerced accomplice. To understand the truth, we need to appreciate the fact that sodium is an absolutely essential electrolyte for life. Every nerve impulse, every muscle contraction, every beat of your heart depends on a precise balance of sodium and potassium, inside and outside your cells. The human body did not evolve to fear sodium. He evolved to seek it out and preserve it. Our ancestors lived in environments where salt was a scarce and valuable resource. Because of this, our bodies have developed incredibly sophisticated hormonal systems to manage sodium levels, with the kidneys being the conductors of this orchestra. In a metabolically healthy body, the kidneys are masters at regulating sodium. If you consume a little more salt in a day, your kidneys simply excrete the excess in your urine to maintain perfect balance. If you consume less, they conserve it more efficiently. This ability to adapt is the norm. The idea that a little more salt in a healthy meal could cause a chronic elevation of blood pressure in a healthy person is physiologically impossible. It's like saying that drinking an extra glass of water will cause chronic bloating. The body simply adjusts. So where did this fixation with sodium come from? It came from observational studies that noted a correlation between populations that consumed a lot of salt and had high blood pressure, and from studies in a specific subgroup of people called salt-sensitive. Yes, there is a percentage of the population whose blood pressure responds most acutely to sodium intake. But the question that is rarely asked is, why are these people sensitive to salt? What is wrong with their regulatory system that prevents them from dealing with sodium efficiently? And the answer to that question brings us one step closer to the real culprit. Salt sensitivity is not a primary condition. In the vast majority of cases, it is a symptom that the true blood pressure control system, the hormonal system that tells the kidneys what to do, is dysregulated. The problem is not the salt that gets in, but the body's inability to excrete it properly due to a faulty hormonal signal. Think of it this way. If your home's plumbing is clogged and the water starts to overflow, is it the fault of the water you're putting in the sink or the clog that prevents the water from draining? Blaming sodium for high blood pressure is like blaming water. Yes, reducing the water in the sink, reducing sodium may temporarily relieve overflow the pressure, but it doesn't solve the fundamental problem of clogged plumbing, the dysregulated hormonal system. In addition, severe sodium restriction can be dangerous. It can lead to electrolyte imbalances, muscle cramps, fatigue, and, ironically, can even activate hormonal systems, such as the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, which, in an effort to conserve sodium, end up raising blood pressure. We, as health champions, need to stop focusing on the scapegoat and start looking for the real architect of the problem. Sodium is not the architect. Sodium is just a brick. The question is, what is the hormone that's telling your body to pick up those bricks and build a fluid retention wall, instead of letting them through? By absolving sodium, we open up space in our investigation to look at the true hormone regulators of blood pressure. And it is in this hormonal world, a world that goes far beyond the salt shaker, that we will find our silent trigger. Next, let us explore the first of these control systems, the delicate balance between the stiffness and flexibility of our blood vessels. The dance of the vases, the end of flexibility with sodium properly placed in its supporting role, rather than the protagonist. Our investigation now turns to the stage where blood pressure is, in fact, manifested. Our blood vessels, imagine your circulatory network as an incredibly complex highway system, with more than 100,000 kilometers of arteries, veins, and capillaries. Blood pressure is nothing more than the force that blood exerts against the walls of these roads as it is pumped by the heart. In a healthy system, these roads, especially the arteries, are not rigid pipes like PVC pipes. They are living, dynamic, elastic structures. When the heart contracts and ejects a pulse of blood systole, the walls of the arteries expand gracefully to accommodate this flow. When the heart relaxes between beats diastole, the arteries contract gently, helping to propel blood forward. This dance of expansion and contraction is what keeps blood pressure within a healthy range, and blood flow constant and smooth. Arterial flexibility is one of the pillars of cardiovascular health. Hypertension, at its core, is the story of how that flexibility is lost. What causes an elastic and responsive artery to become rigid and inflexible? The answer lies in a single layer of cells that lines the inside of all our blood vessels, the endothelium. The endothelium is not just a passive barrier. It is an active and incredibly important endocrine organ. He is the true maestro of vascular health. One of its most critical functions is the production of a miracle molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the body's main vasodilator. It is the substance that signals the smooth muscles that surround the arteries to relax. allowing the vessel to dilate or open. A healthy endothelium produces an adequate amount of nitric oxide, ensuring that our arteries remain flexible and able to adapt to the body's demands. When the endothelium is damaged, a state known as endothelial dysfunction, its ability to produce nitric oxide decreases dramatically. Without the nitric oxide relaxation signal, the muscles of the arteries remain in a state of chronic contraction. The arteries become stiff. The dance ends. The result: the heart needs to pump much harder to push blood through these stiffened tubes, and the pressure against the walls of these tubes increases. This is hypertension. So, the fundamental question becomes, what damages the endothelium? What shuts down nitric oxide production? The answer takes us back to the familiar terrain of metabolic dysfunction. The main aggressor of the endothelium is the toxic combination of high blood sugar and chronic inflammation. Excess glucose in the bloodstream, through the glycation process that we have already discussed in other contexts, directly attacks the delicate cells of the endothelium, generating oxidative stress and damage. It's like throwing sand in the gears of a precision machine. Oxidative stress directly inactivates nitric oxide molecules that have already been produced and damages the enzyme responsible for producing it, endothelial nitric oxide synthase, ENOS. In addition, the silent trigger we are investigating is one of the most potent promoters of endothelial dysfunction that exists. Not only does it cause systemic inflammation that attacks the endothelium, but it also directly interferes with nitric oxide signaling. It creates an environment where the arteries simply lose their ability to relax. Think of your blood pressure as the volume of a song in a room. You can try to control the volume in several ways. High blood pressure medications are like putting earmuffs in your ears, beta blockers, or like trying to fiddle with speakers, diuretics, and others. But none of this touches the master volume knob. The endothelium and its production of nitric oxide are the volume button. A healthy endothelium keeps the volume at a pleasant level. A damaged endothelium increases the volume at maximum and breaks the button, leaving it locked. The conventional model, by focusing on sodium or simply forcing the vessels to dilate with drugs, ignores the health of the conductor itself, the endothelium. We, as health champions, understand that the true strategy for healthy blood pressure is not to fight stiffness, but rather to restore flexibility. And the only way to do that is to remove the aggressors that are damaging the endothelium, and providing the body with the building blocks to repair it. By protecting our endothelium, we are protecting the heart from our cardiovascular health. The silent trigger we're about to reveal is your endothelium's #1 enemy. Now that we understand how our highways lose their flexibility, let's explore how our fluid control system, the kidneys, is hijacked to further exacerbate the problem. The kidneys, sequestration, the sodium and water dam. Our investigation has led us from sodium absolution to understanding the loss of flexibility of our blood vessels as a central factor in hypertension. We saw that a damaged endothelium, unable to produce nitric oxide, leads to stiff arteries, but vessel stiffness is only one part of the equation. The other part, equally important, is the volume of fluid flowing through these vessels. If you have rigid pipes and at the same time increase the amount of fluid being forced through them, the pressure will skyrocket. And the organ responsible for meticulously controlling the volume of fluids in our body is the kidney. In Chapter 2, we established that in a healthy body, the kidneys are masters at excreting excess sodium, and consequently water, to keep pressure stable. Now, we need to ask the crucial question: what could hijack this function? What could command the kidneys to stop excreting sodium, and instead start retaining it, acting as a dam and increasing blood volume? The answer, once again, lies in a hormonal signal. And the silent trigger we're hunting for is the main conductor behind this unregulated signal. The main hormone that tells the kidneys to retain sodium and water is aldosterone, which is part of a complex system called the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. But today, I want to focus on a much more common, much more fundamental hormone that has a direct and powerful effect on the kidneys. An effect that is almost always ignored in the discussion of high blood pressure. That hormone is insulin. Yes, the same insulin that we discussed in the context of diabetes. Most people associate insulin only with sugar metabolism, but this is a dangerously incomplete view. Insulin has multiple functions throughout the body, and one of its primary and evolutionarily ancient functions is signaling to the kidneys. In an ancestral context, where food was scarce and salt hard to find, insulin played a vital survival role. When our ancestors got a carbohydrate-rich meal, insulin would go up, and, among other things, it would send a signal to the kidneys that said, "We have energy on board." Now is a good time to save precious resources. Please hold the sodium. It was a brilliant mechanism to prevent the loss of a vital electrolyte. The problem is that this ancestral survival mechanism becomes a disease mechanism in the modern era. In the modern diet, rich in processed carbohydrates and sugar, we do not have occasional insulin spikes. We have a chronic tsunami of insulin. Our insulin levels remain elevated for most of the day. And what is this chronically elevated insulin signal telling our kidneys, day after day, hour after hour? The message is the same. Hold the sodium, hold the sodium, hold the sodium. The kidneys obediently follow the hormonal order. They stop excreting sodium efficiently. And, as we've already established, where sodium goes, water goes after. The body begins to retain fluids, blood volume increases, and that's the real reason why people with metabolic dysfunction become salt sensitive. It's not because salt is inherently bad for them, but because their insulin hormonal environment prevents their kidneys from dealing with it properly. The kidney is not broken. He's just following a faulty order. This is where the silent trigger puzzle piece fits perfectly. The silent trigger that your doctor does not measure is the main promoter of insulin resistance and, consequently, chronic hyperinsulinemia in our society. When this marker is elevated, it is the guarantee that your insulin levels are chronically high, even if your blood sugar still seems normal. And those elevated insulin levels are the signal that's hijacking your kidneys, transforming them from an efficient filter system into a sodium and water-holding dam. That's why diuretics, one of the most common classes of high blood pressure medications, work. They don't fix the problem, but chemically force the kidneys to excrete sodium and water, fighting the insulin signal. They are effectively opening the dam's floodgate by force. But the hormonal order to close it continues to be sent. We, as health champions, do not want to fight against symptoms. We want to turn off the faulty signal at its source. We want to restore normal kidney function, not chemically force it. And the only way to do that is to reduce insulin. The connection is crystal clear. The silent trigger leads to insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia. Sodium and water retention increases blood volume. The increased blood volume, flowing through blood vessels already stiffened by the same metabolic dysfunction, results in high blood pressure. It's a perfect storm. We now put together two crucial pieces: the loss of vessel flexibility and the hijacking of kidney function. But there is a third piece, which involves our fight or flight system, which completes the picture of hypertension. Let's explore how the nervous system is also dragged into this dysfunction. The alarm is triggered, the nervous system on alert. Our investigation into the roots of hypertension has led us to two crucial discoveries. First, we saw how our blood vessels lose their flexibility and become stiff due to endothelial dysfunction, a direct consequence of metabolic aggression. Second, we understand how our kidneys are hijacked by chronically elevated insulin levels, forcing the body to retain sodium and water and thus increase blood volume. We have, therefore, a rigid plumbing system with excess volume. But there's a third factor, a master controller that can dramatically exacerbate both problems: the autonomic nervous system. This system is our body's unconscious control panel. It operates in the background, regulating vital functions such as heart rate, digestion, and, crucially, blood pressure. It is divided into two main parts that act in a delicate balance: the parasympathetic nervous system, associated with rest and digest, and the sympathetic nervous system, associated with fight or flight. It is the chronic hyperactivation of this second system, the sympathetic system, that forms the third leg of the hypertension tripod. In a situation of real or perceived danger, the sympathetic nervous system is activated. It releases hormones such as adrenaline and noradrenaline, which prepare the body for action. The heart beats faster and harder. And, very important for our discussion, it causes the constriction, or narrowing, of peripheral blood vessels. That's a brilliant survival mechanism. In an emergency, the body diverts blood from the extremities and digestion to the muscles and brain, which are essential for fight or flight. The immediate result of this vasoconstriction is an acute increase in blood pressure. In a healthy body, once the danger passes, the parasympathetic system takes over. The body relaxes, the vessels dilate, and the pressure returns to normal. The problem with essential hypertension is that, for many people, the sympathetic nervous system is chronically turned on. The body lives in a constant low-grade state of alertness, as if it is perpetually preparing for a threat that never comes. This chronic sympathetic activation keeps blood vessels in a state of permanent constriction. directly contributing to vascular stiffness and elevated blood pressure. The question, then, is the same as we asked for the other systems. What is causing this chronic hyperactivation of the sympathetic nervous system? And the answer, once again, takes us back to our silent trigger and its main consequence. Hyperinsulinemia. Chronically elevated levels of insulin in the blood are a potent stimulator of the sympathetic nervous system. Insulin crosses the blood-brain barrier and acts directly on areas of the brain that control sympathetic activity, increasing it. Think about it. From an evolutionary standpoint, an insulin spike signals the arrival of energy glucose. For the ancestral body, the arrival of energy was often followed by a period of activity, such as hunting or gathering. Insulin, therefore, helped prepare the body for this activity by slightly activating the sympathetic system. But again, a mechanism that was useful for acute and occasional peaks becomes pathological when the stimulus is chronic. A state of chronically high insulin translates into a state of chronically high sympathetic activation. Your body is stuck in fight or flight mode simply because of your internal hormonal environment. It is a vicious cycle that feeds itself. High insulin stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system, in turn, can worsen insulin resistance, as stress hormones like adrenaline signal the liver to release more glucose into the bloodstream, further elevating sugar and, consequently, insulin. In addition, sympathetic activation also acts directly on the kidneys, stimulating them to retain more sodium and water, complementing the direct effect of insulin itself on kidney function. It is the perfect storm, with the three systems, vascular, renal, and nervous, conspiring together, all under the regency of the same unregulated maestro, high insulin. This is why relaxation techniques like meditation and deep breathing can help lower blood pressure. They act directly on the reduction of sympathetic activity, calming the nervous system. But just like diuretics, they are treating the symptom, not the primary hormonal cause that is keeping the system on alert. We, as health champions, seek the solution at the root. We understand that a calm and balanced nervous system is critical for cardiovascular health. And the most profound and effective way to calm a chronically activated nervous system is not just through relaxation techniques, but rather through correcting the hormonal environment that is overstimulating it. By normalizing insulin levels, we not only restore vessel flexibility and kidney function, but we also turn off the constant alarm that keeps our body stuck in a state of stress and alertness. We now put together the three pieces of the puzzle: rigid vessels, increased volume, and an overactive nervous system. With that picture complete, we're finally ready to name and examine in detail the silent trigger your doctor doesn't measure, the primary cause that starts this entire devastating cascade. The trigger revealed: uric acid and the key to survival turn disease. We walked the path of dysfunction together. We saw how the official narrative about sodium distracted us from the real problem. We unravel how our blood vessels lose their flexible dance, how our kidneys are hijacked to retain fluids, and how our nervous system gets stuck in a constant state of alert. In each of these failures, we point to a common culprit: chronically elevated insulin, or hyperinsulinemia. But the fundamental question remains: what is the main driver of insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia in our society? Besides the obvious consumption of sugar, what is the biochemical marker that, if it were in your routine blood test, could predict the development of high blood pressure years, perhaps decades, before it manifests? It's time to name the silent trigger, the marker that your doctor rarely measures for the purpose of assessing your cardiovascular risk, or that, if you do, interprets it incompletely, associating it only with one condition: gout. That silent trigger is uric acid. Yes, uric acid. Most people, including many doctors, know it only as the crystal that deposits in the joints and causes the excruciating pain of gout, but that's a tragically limited view of their true role in the human body. Over the past 2 decades, an avalanche of scientific research has revealed that uric acid is not just a waste product of metabolism. It is a metabolically active and extremely powerful signaling molecule, and chronically elevated levels of uric acid in the blood, a condition called hyperuricemia, are one of the strongest and earliest independent predictors of developing insulin resistance, fatty liver, obesity, and, crucially for our discussion, hypertension. The connection is so strong that many top researchers now refer to essential hypertension as uric acid-induced hypertension. To understand why, we need to take a brief trip back in time, in our evolutionary history. About 15 million years ago, Our primate ancestors underwent a genetic mutation that caused them to lose the enzyme uricase, the enzyme that breaks down uric acid into a harmless substance. Other mammals have this enzyme, but we humans and the great apes do not. This means that our uric acid levels are naturally much higher. Why would evolution select for a mutation that predisposes us to gout and metabolic problems? The answer is survival. This mutation coincided with a period of global cooling and food shortages. The strongest hypothesis, known as the uric acid survival hypothesis, posits that higher uric acid levels conferred a crucial survival advantage. Uric acid, when generated in the body, promotes the conversion of sugar into fat much more efficiently, helping our ancestors to gain weight and store energy for times of famine. It also induces mild insulin resistance, which helps keep blood sugar a little higher to fuel the brain. And, most importantly, it slightly increases blood pressure, which helped prevent death from dehydration in times of water scarcity. Uric acid was our internal key to survival, a way to activate the storage and conservation mode. The problem, as always, is the mismatch between our ancestral biology and our modern environment. The same survival key that helped us get fat on the few fruits we found becomes a weapon of mass destruction in a world of unlimited access to sugar. And what is the main dietary source that elevates uric acid in the modern human body? It's not the red meat or the seafood, as most think. The main source is fructose, the sugar in fruits, and more so, the high fructose corn syrup found in sodas, juices, and processed foods. Fructose metabolism in the liver generates uric acid as a direct byproduct. And here's the devastating connection. Fructose elevates uric acid. Uric acid, in turn, travels to the mitochondria, the power plants of our cells, and causes oxidative stress, which triggers insulin resistance and fat production in the liver. At the same time, this same uric acid directly attacks the endothelium of the blood vessels, inhibiting the production of nitric oxide and causing vascular stiffness. And, as if that weren't enough, it also acts on the kidneys, contributing to sodium retention. Uric acid is the missing link. It is the trigger that starts the cascade. It explains why sugar, especially fructose, is so devastating to blood pressure. It connects the modern diet directly to the vascular, renal, and metabolic dysfunction that characterizes hypertension. Your doctor may order a uric acid test if he suspects gout, but rarely will he see it as a marker of cardiometabolic risk. A uric acid level that is considered normal by the lab, but which is in the upper range of that normal, is already a flashing red warning signal, indicating that your metabolism is under stress and that insulin resistance is being activated. We, as health champions, need to understand the power of this molecule. We need to demand that this marker be measured and, more importantly, interpreted correctly, not as a risk to the joints, but as a thermometer of our metabolic health. By identifying and controlling the real trigger, uric acid, we can defuse the bomb before it explodes. We can cut the evil to its deepest root, long before the pressure starts to rise. Connecting the dots, how uric acid orchestrates the perfect storm. In the previous chapter, the centerpiece of our puzzle was revealed. Uric acid, this ancestral survival molecule, emerged from the anonymity of gout to position itself as the silent, primal trigger of metabolic dysfunction that leads to hypertension. Now is the time to connect the dots. It's time to take the loose threads of our investigation, the stiffness of the vessels, the retention of fluid by the kidneys, and the hyperactivation of the nervous system, and show, with crystal clarity, how uric acid is the conductor that conducts this out-of-tune orchestra. He does not act in a single way. It launches a coordinated attack on multiple fronts, ensuring that blood pressure has no option but to rise. Let us revisit each of our 3 pillars of hypertension in the powerful new light of uric acid knowledge. The first pillar, the loss of flexibility of the vessels. We have seen that vascular health depends on the ability of the endothelium to produce nitric oxide, our main vasodilator. Uric acid is a declared enemy of nitric oxide. Scientific studies have conclusively shown that when uric acid levels in the blood are elevated, it penetrates endothelial cells and triggers a cascade of oxidative stress. This oxidative stress does 2 devastating things. First, it steals and inactivates nitric oxide molecules that have already been produced, rendering them useless. Second, and perhaps more importantly, it inhibits the activity of the key enzyme for nitric oxide production, endothelial nitric oxide synthase. In essence, uric acid not only destroys the final product, it also sabotages the factory. The result is a drastic drop in the availability of nitric oxide. Without this signal of relaxation, the smooth muscles of the arteries remain contracted. The vessels become rigid and unable to dilate. The pressure rises. It is a direct and chemical attack on the flexibility of our arteries. Uric acid-induced hypertension begins here, with the hardening of our vascular plumbing. The second pillar, kidneys. We established that sodium and water retention, ordered by chronically elevated insulin, is a crucial factor in increasing blood volume. How does uric acid fit in here? In two ways. The first is indirect, but extremely powerful. As we have seen, uric acid is one of the main causes of insulin resistance. By generating oxidative stress in cells, it makes them less responsive to insulin, forcing the pancreas to produce more of the hormone. Therefore, by raising uric acid through fructose consumption, for example, you are directly stimulating the cycle of insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia, which in turn orders the kidneys to retain sodium. But uric acid's attack on the kidneys is also direct. High levels of uric acid cause inflammation and damage to the small blood vessels within the kidneys themselves, impairing their filtration function over time. It also appears to have a direct effect on how the kidneys manipulate sodium, making them more likely to retain it. Uric acid, therefore, tightens the siege on the kidneys on all sides. It creates the hormonal environment high insulin that commands sodium retention and, at the same time, damages the kidney structure itself, compromising its ability to function properly. The third pillar, hyperactivation of the sympathetic nervous system. We have seen that a chronic fight or flight state keeps the vessels constricted and the heart racing. Uric acid's connection to this system is perhaps the most complex, but equally fascinating. The systemic inflammation and oxidative stress generated by elevated uric acid are, in themselves, signs of danger for the body. The central nervous system interprets this environment of biochemical stress and responds by activating the sympathetic nervous system as a defense measure. It is as if the body realizes that it is under attack at the cellular level and activates the general alarm. In addition, uric acid appears to directly influence the activity of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, a hormonal system closely linked to both renal function and sympathetic nervous system activity. By stimulating this system, uric acid promotes the release of angiotensin II, a potent vasoconstrictor, and aldosterone, which increases sodium retention, further closing in on blood pressure. When we put these three actions together, the picture becomes eerily clear. Uric acid is not a secondary player. He is the strategist. It hardens the vessels, decreasing their ability to accommodate blood flow. It increases the volume of blood in the system, forcing the kidneys to retain sodium and water, and it activates the body's alert system, keeping the vessels constricted and the heart working harder. It is a three-pronged attack, perfectly coordinated, that makes the rise in blood pressure an inevitable mathematical consequence. We, as health champions, by understanding this strategy of the enemy, gain the power to create a counter-strategy. We no longer fight on three separate fronts, with three different medicines. We focus on neutralizing the general who commands the troops. And the neutralization of this general, the control of uric acid, is the true path to cardiovascular freedom. The counter-strategy, how to disarm the silent trigger. Our journey of investigation has brought us to remarkable clarity. Essential hypertension, far from being a causeless mystery, turned out to be the logical consequence of a triple attack, orchestrated by a single metabolic trigger, elevated uric acid. We've seen how it hardens our vessels, hijacks our kidneys, and keeps our nervous system on high alert. With this knowledge, the feeling of powerlessness dissipates and gives way to a sense of purpose. If we know the enemy's strategy, we can develop a counter-strategy. If we know what the trigger is, we can learn to diffuse it. This chapter is about that. It's about the action plan. This is not a new magic pill, but a series of deliberate, science-based lifestyle changes designed to cut off uric acid production at the source and restore the metabolic harmony your body craves. The counter-strategy is based on two fundamental principles. First, to drastically reduce the intake of the substances that our body turns into uric acid, and second, to support the body's natural pathways to excrete it. The first principle, and by far the most important, is to attack the main source of uric acid production in the modern human body. And, as we have established, this source is not the purines of red meat, but fructose. The war on uric acid is largely a war on sugar. The most impactful step anyone can take to reduce their uric acid levels is the total elimination of added sugars, especially those in liquid form. Sodas, fruit juices, even natural ones, sweetened teas, energy drinks. They are all fructose bombs that go directly to the liver and are metabolized in a cascade that generates uric acid as a byproduct. High fructose corn syrup, present in numerous processed foods, is the main culprit. Reading the labels and becoming a hidden sugar detective is the first line of defense, but the strategy does not stop there. High sugar fruits, such as mangoes, grapes, and bananas, while containing fiber and nutrients, can also contribute significantly to fructose load, especially in a body that is already metabolically compromised. During a recovery phase, limiting fruit consumption to those with a low glycemic index and high in fiber, such as berries, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, is a prudent approach. And of course, all refined carbohydrates, such as white flour and white rice, which quickly convert to glucose, indirectly contribute to the problem by boosting insulin resistance, which in itself makes it difficult for the kidneys to excrete uric acid. Therefore, a low-carb, very low fructose diet is the foundation of our counter-offensive. The second principle is to support excretion. About 2/3 of uric acid is eliminated by the kidneys. Anything that improves kidney function and insulin sensitivity will help. The first and simplest tool is proper hydration. Drinking plenty of water helps dilute urine and makes it easier for the kidneys to filter and excrete uric acid. Avoiding dehydration is crucial. Certain nutrients have also been shown to help. Vitamin C, for example, has a uric acidic effect, which means it helps the kidneys excrete uric acid. Sources of vitamin C from whole foods, such as bell peppers, broccoli, and the aforementioned berries, are excellent. Another surprising ally is coffee. Consistent observational studies have shown that regular coffee consumption is associated with lower uric acid levels, although the exact mechanism is still being studied. And crucially, reversing insulin resistance through diet and exercise, as we've already discussed, improves the kidney's ability to excrete uric acid. When insulin levels drop, the kidneys wake up and become more efficient in their filtration and excretion functions. What about red meat and seafood? The traditional culprits. They contain purines, which are metabolized into uric acid. However, it is vital to understand the context. For a person who has already removed fructose and refined carbohydrates from their diet, the impact of purines from whole, nutritious food sources is significantly less. Fructose not only generates uric acid in its metabolization, but also seems to accelerate the breakdown of the body's own purines, creating a vicious cycle. The real problem is not the intake of purines in a vacuum, but the intake of purines in a high-sugar environment. Once the sugar is removed, most people can tolerate a moderate amount of pure and rich foods without any problems. The strategy, therefore, is not one of deprivation, but of intelligent substitution. We replace processed, sugary, and inflammatory foods with whole foods, dense in nutrients. We have replaced the low-fat and low-salt mentality with the low-selin and low-fructose mentality. This counter-strategy is not complicated. In fact, its simplicity is its strength. It doesn't depend on anything external, just on your conscious choice of what you put in your body. We, as health champions, embrace this simplicity. We understand that in order to solve a complex problem, we often need to return to the basic principles of human biology. By disarming the uric acid trigger, we are actually turning off the master switch that controls blood pressure. We are allowing our blood vessels to relax, our kidneys to release excess fluids, and our nervous system to finally come out of alertness. We are, in essence, restoring metabolic peace. Restoring peace. What happens when the trigger is disarmed so far? Our journey has largely been theoretical and investigative. We draw the map of dysfunction, identify the trigger, and outline the counter-strategy. But knowledge, by itself, does not change lives. It is the application of this knowledge and the tangible results it generates that truly transform us. In this chapter, I want you to visualize what happens in your body when you put this counter-strategy into practice. I want you to feel, on a physiological level, the healing cascade that unfolds when the silent trigger, uric acid, is finally disarmed. Restoring cardiovascular health is not a one-time event, but a process, a series of quiet victories that happen within you, long before the blood pressure machine starts showing you the numbers you so desperately want to see. It is a return to metabolic peace, and its effects ripple throughout the system. The first thing that happens, and often remarkably quickly, is the reduction of fluid retention. By drastically cutting fructose and refined carbs, your insulin levels start to plummet. The constant signal that commanded his kidneys to hold sodium is finally silenced. Your kidneys, which have never really been broken, but only following orders, are finally given permission to do their job. they begin to excrete excess sodium and, with it, the excess water that their body had been retaining. Many people who take this approach report losing several pounds in the first week. This is not primarily a loss of fat, but rather the release of this excess fluid. You may notice that your ankles swell, that the rings on your fingers are looser, and that your face looks less puffy. This is the first and most tangible evidence that you have relieved pressure on your circulatory system. The volume of blood begins to normalize, and this in itself reduces the force needed to pump it through the body. In parallel, a slower but more profound change begins to occur in your blood vessels. With the reduction of uric acid and systemic inflammation, the constant attack on your endothelium ceases. Endothelial cells, free from the aggression of oxidative stress, begin to repair themselves. The production of the enzyme ENAS, responsible for the synthesis of nitric oxide, begins to recover. Slowly, the availability of nitric oxide in your vessels increases. Your vessels, which were in a state of chronic contraction, begin to remember how to relax. The dance of flexibility, the graceful expansion and contraction with each heartbeat, begins to be restored. This process takes time. Arterial stiffness that took years to develop does not disappear overnight. But every day that you nourish your body properly, you're providing the building blocks for a healthier, more resilient vascular system. Diastolic pressure, the bottom number in your measurement, which reflects the pressure in the vessels when the heart is at rest, is often the first to respond to this improvement in vascular flexibility. And finally, your nervous system begins to find peace. With normalized insulin levels, chronic stimulation to the sympathetic nervous system decreases. The fight or flight alarm that was perpetually going off begins to fall silent. You can perceive this not only in your blood pressure, but in your entire being. The feeling of anxiety and tension decreases. The quality of your sleep improves. Your ability to cope with the stresses of everyday life increases. Your heart no longer seems to be racing at rest. The body transitions from a state of alertness to a state of calm and repair. This autonomic nervous system recalibration is perhaps the most holistic change of all, affecting not only your cardiovascular health, but also your mental health and overall well-being. When you combine these three effects, the normalization of fluid volume, the restoration of vascular flexibility, and the calming of the nervous system, the reduction of blood pressure becomes the inevitable consequence. It's not magic, it's physiology. It is the result of removing interference and allowing the body to return to its natural state of balance. This healing journey is living proof that we are more than our diagnosis. We, as health champions, understand that the body has its own wisdom. Our job is not to force or deceive you with medications, but rather to create the environment in which this wisdom can flourish. By disarming the silent trigger, we are not just lowering a number, we are restoring function, vitality, and peace throughout our system. And that's the true definition of health. A new vision of cardiovascular health, and your first step to freedom. We've reached the end of our investigation. And I hope you're coming out of this journey not just with information, but with a transformation in your perspective. Essential hypertension, which once seemed like a mysterious, lifelong sentence, has been debunked. We have seen that it is not a disease of excess salt, but a disease of hormonal dysfunction. We saw that it is not an isolated problem, but a symptom of a systemic metabolic disorder, orchestrated by the silent trigger of elevated uric acid, which in turn is driven by our modern consumption of sugar, especially fructose. By understanding this, you are no longer at the mercy of a vague diagnosis. You're in the driver's seat, map in hand, able to navigate toward the root cause of the problem. This clarity is the first and most important step towards true freedom. And this new view extends far beyond blood pressure. Here, we will briefly explore some sub-niches, so that you understand the depth of this connection. Think of your cardiovascular health as an ecosystem. When you treat the root cause, insulin resistance, and uric acid, you're not just fixing a problem. You are restoring the entire ecosystem. For example, cholesterol. For decades, we've been taught to fear LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol. But what really matters is not the total amount of LDL, but rather the quality of the particles. The same metabolic dysfunction that raises your blood pressure, the environment of high sugar and inflammation, turns your LDL particles, which should be big and fluffy, into small, dense, oxidized particles. It is these small and dense particles that can penetrate the wall of the arteries and start the process of atherosclerosis. By reversing insulin resistance, you not only lower your blood pressure, but you also change the quality of your cholesterol, making it less dangerous. Another sub-niche, heart health itself. The heart is a muscle that needs a constant flow of energy. In a state of insulin resistance, the heart muscle has difficulty getting the fuel it needs, making it less efficient and more susceptible to damage. By restoring metabolic flexibility and allowing your heart to burn fats and ketones efficiently, you provide you with a cleaner, more sustainable fuel, improving your function and resilience. The message is this: your high blood pressure is not an isolated event. It's the canary in the coal mine. It's the most obvious warning sign that your entire metabolic system is under stress. Treating it with medication alone, without addressing the root cause, is like painting over rust. The structure will continue to deteriorate from below. By adopting the counter strategy we've discussed, by focusing on lowering your uric acid and insulin, you're not just normalizing your blood pressure, you're simultaneously reducing your risk of type 2 diabetes, improving your cholesterol profile, protecting your brain, cleansing your liver, and losing excess weight. You are treating the system, not the symptom. This is the beauty and power of the functional approach. It is the wisdom that we, as champions of health, seek and apply. We don't play the hit and miss game with symptoms. We go straight to the source of the power: metabolic health. What I want you to take away from this video is hope grounded in science. Hope that you're not defined by the numbers on a handset. The hope that your body has an extraordinary ability to heal itself. And the hope that you have the power to create the environment for that healing to happen. The journey is not overnight, but it is a journey of increasing empowerment with every choice, every meal, every day that you feel a little better, with a little more energy and clarity. And because I know that action is the bridge between knowledge and transformation, I want you to take your first step now, not tomorrow, not on Monday. Now, and I have a 3-part challenge for you, our commitment ritual here on the channel. First, the Property Act. I want you to go to the comments section and declare your new understanding. Write this sentence: my pressure is a message, not a sentence. By typing these words, you are internalizing the most important lesson of today. You are taking ownership of your health narrative. Second, the act of courage. Give a like on this video. Your like is more than a click. It is a vote of courage. It's a signal to the algorithm that this message, which challenges the status quo, needs to be heard by more people who are trapped in fear and misinformation. Your like helps spread the truth. And third, the most crucial, the act of mastery. If you're really ready to stop being a passive patient and become the champion of your own health, if you want to keep learning how to decode your body's messages and master your biology, then your next step is obvious. Click the sign up button and activate the bell. This channel is your school. It is your source of knowledge to build a life free from the tyranny of chronic diseases. Your application is your commitment to your own mastery. Comment, like and subscribe. Do it now. This is your turning point. The decision to stop treating the symptom and start curing the cause. The decision to become a health champion. Make the choice. I will be here every step of the way.